Hello, this is Dr. Dawn Michael, and welcome to my show. Welcome back for all of my viewers, and welcome if you are new to my show. This is a show that will talk about subjects that other people may not approach. You may not hear from other channels. I look at it from a different perspective, and it's not quote unquote always politically correct or the way that society wants us to think about certain things, but it is the truth and it is what is happening in people's lives. And many times people don't have a place to go to that will give them solutions or at least help them to unravel some of the problems they may be having. So today what we're going to tackle is 5 signs that your sexual fetish is out of control. And I'm going to not replace the word fetish, but insert the word sexual act or sexual desire. So they can all fit into what I'm talking about. And when I say out of control, oftentimes when you're in the midst of it or it's kind of taken a hold of your life, you may not know exactly that you're out of control, but there might be something in your gut that says things are not good. I'm not feeling good. Maybe I'm feeling depressed. And another indication is if you're married or in a relationship and your spouse is pointing stuff out that they are seeing that's not healthy, or a friend. So it's really important that you step back and take a look at your life as a whole. And if any of these 5 topics that I'm bringing up resonate with you, then it might be time for you to take some action and maybe get some help or figure out how to change some behaviors so that you can put your life back on a positive track and not feel like you are a servant or you are out of control and that you are helpless, because we all make choices in our lives every day. Every thought that we make, we decide to act on it. So we do have control. But I will say, if you get yourself into a position where you continue to obsess about things, then sometimes it really can feel like you're out of control. So it's important to realize the signs and it's important to do something about it. So I'm going to start with number 1 and we will go through the list. Okay. The first one is once you have finished the sexual act, you feel bad about it. And that could be you're masturbating, you're with another person, you're with your spouse, you've gone outside the relationship, whatever that may be, you don't feel good afterwards. So you've gotten yourself into a place where you either have a bad feeling in the pit of your stomach, you beat yourself up afterwards, so you put yourself down, or you promise that you're not going to do it again. And so you're left feeling pretty awful. Now, a healthy sexual situation would be that you feel good afterwards, that the person that you are having the sexual relationship with, you feel close with, you feel connected with. Even if it's a situation where you're masturbating, it's not that you feel bad about yourself afterwards. It's that, you've pleasured yourself, and maybe you're someone single and you're okay with it and you don't feel like you've done something wrong afterwards. It's the feeling that happens after that makes people get into a very bad cycle. So what happens is if you're feeling really terrible afterwards, then you're looking for something to make you feel better. And oftentimes that will lead you back to the particular sexual fetish that you feel bad about. And so it becomes kind of a cyclical problem, and people really need to break out of that and realize that they can break out of it. But understanding that it's a problem is the first step. Okay, number 2. You think about the sexual act several times a day. So, okay, so let's say that you have a kink or a fetish or a desire, and you think about it once in a while, and maybe it turns you on, and that's that. You go on with your day, so on and so forth. But this particular sexual act or fetish, you think about several times a day. You It pops into your mind, and you either act on it, or you push it aside, or you dwell on it. That can be too. It might not even be that you're particularly acting on it. Sometimes people dwell on it, and they can spend minutes or they can spend hours, and they could do it once a day or they could do it several times a day. So if this is constantly popping into your mind and you're not able to push it to the side, and you're dwelling on it or acting on it, it can be a problem because you're investing a lot of time and energy in it when you could be doing something productive. So that's number two. Number three, you have to think about the sexual act in order to get aroused in every situation. Now, it's not a problem if maybe you fantasize about it here or there, but every single time you get into a sexual situation, whether it be with your spouse or in a relationship or even through masturbation, you have to think about that one particular sexual act to get aroused. Nothing else arouses you anymore. It has gotten to the point where it is that one particular thing. And right then and right there, you have basically trained your brain to just be aroused by that. And that can present a very real problem if you are in a relationship, or if you're basing a relationship, finding somebody new. Let's say you're single, and that happens to be something that gets in the way of you meeting someone, because immediately you think, oh, I want them to be able to perform that one sexual act with me, or what happens if they find that one sexual act not appealing? How do I deal with it? So if you're so hyper focused on that, and that is the only thing that turns you on, remember you've trained your brain over time, and your body to react to that. So you have to find ways to unravel that, and there are things that you can do. The first thing is to put aside that sexual act that arouses you, and find other things in your life that you're passionate about, and try to put more energy into that, and stop hyper focusing on that particular arousal. Okay, number four, you spend money that you don't have towards that sexual act, fetish, desire. And people can get into real problems. I have helped many people that have spent thousands and thousands and even hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years on a particular fetish that they have, or a particular sexual situation that they want to be in, or like they like to watch, or they like things that items that are associated with it. And it could get to the point where they either get themselves in complete debt, or they're basically working towards, or they're spending their money on that particular fetish, and they're really not spending it on anything else. They're not taking care of themselves. They're not taking care of their family. Maybe they're in a relationship and they're spending money on this instead of putting it into the marriage, the family. And for some people, it could be a high. They could get a dopamine rush from just spending that money on it for the time being, but then afterwards it's basically like number one I was talking about. They don't feel bad about it. They feel awful about it that they've spent the money, but at the moment they got a rush for it. It was exciting and they justified it. And that in some ways can be like towards a drug, that same kind of feeling, or towards gambling, something that speeds up your adrenaline, spikes your dopamine. And so you have to be really careful and really look at it like, why are you doing it? And what can you do to replace that with something that's healthy, like exercise or a hobby or just something else in your life that if you're investing that kind of money in, you're getting a positive return instead of a negative return. And so that's really important to keep tabs on and to be aware of. Number 5, you push your spouse or your significant other to share in the act even though they do not want to, or you know that it might harm your relationship if you continue to talk about the particular fetish or kind of steer them in the direction of that particular fetish. You know in the back of your mind that if you just push a little bit harder, yeah, you might get them to act on it, but what are the consequences? And this is a big one for some different types of fetishes. One of them could be the cuckold fetish, where many times men have pushed their spouse into not just the fantasy part of it, but have really crossed that line and found that it has had dire effects on their marriage, that it's ended the marriage or that it's broken the trust. And so sometimes your fantasy, if you're so into it, or your sexual fetish or your obsession, you're so into it because you've been watching video on it, it's become familiar to you, that you automatically think that your spouse understands how you feel, or that if you tell them about it, that they'll understand it. And many times they don't. And oftentimes, the person who has the fetish may not really understand what's driving it or why they have it. And so they can't even explain that to their spouse. And so they're pushing them to get involved in this with them. And they're not really understanding why they're attracted to it or how it's going to affect the relationship in the end. And especially relationships where there's not great communication or there's problems in the marriage, trying to make the marriage better by saying to your spouse, oh, things will be better if we could just do this, or even thinking in your mind that, oh, the relationship will be better if we can just, be involved in this sexual situation with each other, without understanding why you feel that way or what the consequences are. And so that's a big one. I help a lot of couples in this situation navigate through what to do, how to openly talk to each other, and even help men understand why they feel that way. Sometimes it could be that they have certain erectile dysfunction and they're not able to perform properly or the way that they want to perform. So they're finding other ways to make themselves feel better so that they don't have the pressure to perform. That happens with a lot of men. Sometimes they want that rush or that excitement, and instead of finding other parts of their life that are exciting or trying to figure out other things to do with their marriage, they focus more on the sexual aspect of it. And they get upset if their spouse doesn't want to go along with them, and they harbor resentment and so on and so forth, and that really can make situations much worse. So if you find that you are experiencing 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, some people have 5 of the signs that I have pointed out, that is really a danger zone for you, and that is a wake-up call to get some help, because you don't have to live with these sexual obsessions if they're hurting your life. There are things that you can do to get out of them, to understand why you have them, and to work through them. Sometimes people can modify, they can compromise, and they can work with their spouse through some of this. I've helped couples do that. But it takes a very mature person. It takes an understanding of, why you have this obsession or fetish or desire, and then really explaining to your spouse or partner so that they understand where you're coming from a psychological point of view, not just the sexual act, but really, why do you feel this way? Why are you so obsessed with it? What is it that's driving it? And did something happen in childhood? Did you develop a fetish, around puberty? Are you trying to not deal with other aspects of your life, so you're more focused on the fetish? Is that really the only thing that's exciting in your life? Have you turned to this particular fetish when you felt down or depressed, and it's the one thing that you think makes you feel better? I mean, there's so many different reasons that people fall into any of this obsessive, it can be an obsessive compulsive situation. And so if this is you and this resonates with you, it might be time for you to get some help. And once you do, you will feel better, and you will be able to bring back joy and love and connectedness and all of those wonderful things that you can have in your life when you get this other part of your life under control. All right, everyone, if you like this video, please share it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave your comment. As you know, I believe everyone deserves to have a healthy sex life, and so do you. Make it a great day.